And welcome to the virtual open house. Before we dive in, I wanted to say that this is really a joint effort of us as the state working with you, residents and growers, people living and working in the area to get together and work to beat the beetle. But before we dive in, there's a few things. This webinar is being recorded. Some of the Teams functions are disabled, so if you have a question, please go ahead and share that by putting it in the chat box. Unfortunately, your microphone and camera are off. But if you have questions, post it in the chat box. There's some of us online that will be able to assist and answer those, as well as there will be time at the end. At the very end, there will be a brief survey for you to fill out and give us feedback on the Japanese beetle project or feedback on this presentation. I'd like to introduce our speakers. I'm Cassie Chiors, an outreach specialist at WSCA. I work to share with residents what's going on and really involve them, teach them how they can help protect their backyard. And I'll let our other two speakers introduce themselves.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jill Weishart, and I am the Environmental Justice Coordinator at the Department of Agriculture. So welcome.
And hello, this is Mirela Iancu. I am a pesticide illness investigator with the Department of Health.
Thanks. We also have Camilo Acosta on the line, our Japanese beetle project coordinator. He's here to help answer any questions you might have. So why are we here today to learn about Japanese beetle? Well, we're getting involved, and if you are in Yakima, Benton, or Franklin County, there's three things that we're really going to learn about today and how you can work to help us beat the beetle. So the first thing we're going to learn about is how to give treatment consent and how to sign up for treatments. We're going to learn about trapping and how to support our trapping program and how you can help remove adult beetles. And lastly, we're going to learn how to help prevent beetles from spreading in terms of a Japanese beetle quarantine. So if you're in Yakima, Benton, or Franklin counties, the thing to think about is treatments are going to be the first thing you can really do to get involved to help. And treatments are going to actually be starting in 2 weeks, and they are free. But we do need you to take action and to sign up and give us your consent to treat your areas to prevent Japanese beetle. So you might be wondering, how do I sign up? Couple easy ways to do it. The best way is to go online to our website, but we'll also share with you the other reasons. But we really need you to sign up and take action today. You want to protect your lawn, your trees, and your garden from Japanese beetle and your neighbors and your community. So why is it such a big deal and why do we need to help? Well, Japanese beetle tends to do this. It's a highly invasive pest and it really likes to skeletonize vegetation. So all these leaf holes you see on this leaf are from Japanese beetle. And it doesn't really stop there. It loves buds of flowers, buds on fruit, and it will eat over 300 different types of plants. So it really doesn't discriminate. I want you to think about all the different plants and bushes that you have growing in your backyard that could be affected by this beetle, if you have any flower gardens. And then I want you to expand that knowledge and think about what's being grown around you and how that community of agriculture, what it does to survive, and how this type of feeding could affect it. So when we're going to see this feeding is when we're going to look for those adult beetles, and we're going to see them in the summer anywhere from May to October. We might not always see the beetle, but we'll see the destruction that it causes so you can see the feeding that it does on this flower. If you look at the beetle closely, it's going to have a green metallic head and thorax with copper wing covers. Most people, it's about the size of your pinky nail, about 1/3 to 1/2 an inch long, and it does have little white patches on its abdomen. A couple of the other things that the beetle eats are on this screen for you. You can see how it will get into flowers. really get into vegetation, and even some of the things that are grown. So the adult beetle will begin to feed in this in spring, in the summer, and into the fall. But we have to think about what it's doing while it's not an adult. And it's actually a grub or a larva living in the soil. Now, it kind of looks like a white C-shaped grub with a brown tan head and some visible legs, but it's really hard to tell this type of grub apart from other types of grubs. We kind of have to see it on underneath the microscope. But we do know where these live in the soil, and we do know they have one thing they really, really like to eat, and that's grass roots. So think about what's in your yard. Think about what's at your school, your park, and the many things that make your community nice, golf courses included. This patch of grass here has been infested with Japanese beetle grubs, and what they do is they eat the roots of that grass, so it can't take up any water and it dies. You see yellow and white patches here. If this lawn has been watered, it's been fertilized, it should be green and prosperous, but unfortunately it's just going to be dead and have patches because the grubs have ate the roots. And if you have a lot of Japanese beetle, it could even peel up like dead carpet because all the roots of the grass are gone. Right. So if you think about you have all these yummy grubs in your yard, you're going to have a lot of dirt patches. It's not going to be very nice, but you're also going to invite rodents, critters, and other things to come in, tear that lawn up, and dig it apart even more. So it's not going to be good for your yard, not good for your property value, and not good for your community. These are grass buffets that these grubs are feeding on. And once they've left our grass buffets, they're getting into our bushes, into our trees, and spreading out into the agricultural areas that really help Washington thrive. So we are offering these free treatments to help lower that number of beetles to help protect your yard and keep them out of Washington. If you're in Yakima, Benton, and Franklin County, you should pay attention to sign up for free treatments. In these counties, we've selected certain areas for treatments because we've found beetles. And we found these beetles because we have trapped for the beetles, so we know exactly where the beetles are. We've actually been trapping for the beetles since the 90s to support Japanese beetle not spreading across the United States. You see this map here, you see areas of purple and areas of green. Areas of purple is where Japanese beetle is established. Those states have it and they will never be able to get rid of it. Areas of green are all the states that work really hard to keep it out. If they find it, they work to remove it. There's actually rules and regulations set by the federal government to keep Japanese beetle from spreading. So we've been setting traps and monitoring for Japanese beetle from the 90s. Traps, this is what the top of one looks like. It has a pheromone lure, which is a scent towards the top that attracts the beetles. It could smell like roses. It could smell like other beetles. And they get attracted to the trap and basically fall in the bag below it or the container below it and die. When we trap Japanese beetle, it helps remove them and keep them from laying as many eggs to reproduce. We can also place traps in different areas to monitor for the introduction of beetles. Traps come in different sizes and shapes. Some are reusable, some aren't. Here's a map of where we placed all our traps last year in Washington. So you can see black dots on the screen. Those are traps that have not caught beetles. Yellow dots on the screens are traps that have caught beetles. You'll notice one yellow dot over in King County. That's by the airport. Historically speaking, we have found a beetle before at the airport. They frequently like to travel in air cargo. However, one beetle has been found, the airport's treated, and there's never been a problem. You look over towards Yakima, Benton, and Franklin counties, and we tend to see lots of more yellow. If I take that area and I zoom in for you, the top left corner is going to be Yakima. You get on that red line and drive, it's actually I-82 down towards the Tri-Cities. So your first stop is going to be Wapato. We caught about 1,100 beetles there. Then you're going to drive down, starting to get into Sunnyside, Grandview, down into Mabden, see 18,400 beetles, and finally 5 more in Pasco. So you can look at this map and you can see the yellow beetles where the yellow traps that have caught beetles and the black traps that have not. I can tell you that this big yellow area of Grandview, Mapton, and Sunnyside originally had almost 25,000 beetles. So we have been able to reduce the amount of beetles in that area. However, our outliers are starting to spread. So because we've placed traps that have and have not caught beetles, we can say that in these counties, we know exactly where to treat, right? You can sign up for treatments, you can support our trapping efforts, and you can not spread beetles, but you can also trap and collect beetles to help remove them yourselves. Beetle traps come in different sizes and shapes, and you'll want to place the traps on your property. If you're in an area that doesn't have Japanese beetle, it could be the first detector to let you know it's there. If you have a property that has Japanese beetle, you could help be removing them, keeping them from laying more eggs and having bigger populations next year. Japanese beetles, they don't sting or bite, so you can easily just pick them off anytime you see them, drop them in a bucket of soapy water. Now, the time of year you want to do this is kind of key because we want to put it out when the adults are active. So you want to think the summertime, basically middle May to middle October. What the adults are doing is they are above the surface. They are feeding, mating, dropping a couple eggs, coming back up, feeding, mating, dropping a couple eggs. And they'll do that repeatedly until they've laid 40 to 60 eggs. We will get into the fall time. Those eggs will hatch into the grubs who will move around in the soil and eat your grass roots. In the winter, those grubs or larvae, they're going to dig themselves down. And then in the spring, they'll come back closer to the surface. They'll be bigger grubs now, and they will move around and eat some more. They're going to do this till we get closer to the summer, where they'll pupate, hatch into those adults, and that cycle will repeat itself. So we are coming in with treatments starting in 2 weeks to apply to your lawns as a preventative to keep those grubs from growing and moving forth into the next season. So you can sign up for treatments, you can trap, and you can support the quarantine. Right now is the time of year where you really want to give your treatment consent if you are in Yakima, Benton, and Franklin County, because the treatments are actually free. WSCA will do it at no cost to you. In Yakima and Benton and Franklin counties, we're specifically going to be treating in Wapato, into the Sunnyside, Grandview, and Mapton area that you see in this square here. There are addresses of Pasco also included, but we are not yet in city limits, and we will also be treating in Pasco. What our treatments are is we supervise a licensed pest control operator to do the applications. And what they do is they apply a celiprin, which is a reduced risk larvicide to target the eggs, grubs, and adult Japanese beetles. We picked it because it has a low toxicity compared to other larvicides and is not a risk to mammals, birds, or fish. The EPA has actually approved this to use on grass on athletic fields, parks, playgrounds, and lawns, as well as flower beds and bushes planted around homes, schools, and businesses. So I'll dive into treatments a little bit more in a minute, but one of the first questions we get is, well, tell me more about acecliprin. So who's better to tell you about acecliprin rather than the Department of Health? So I'll go ahead and hand it over to our other speaker. And just tell me when to click next and I'll advance through the slides for you.
Yes, okay. Thank you for inviting me today to talk about the Department of Health involvement with the Japanese beetle eradication program. I am Mirela Iancu, as I presented myself, and my colleague Maroli Little is a toxicologist with the Department of Health who evaluated the acecliprin and contributed to this report. The next slide, please. What are the ingredients in this pesticide? Acecliprin contains the active ingredient chlorantraniliprole, which is a member of a new class of pesticides called antranilic diamides. These are very selective because they interrupt muscle contraction in insects but not in mammals. This active ingredient is selective for insects receptors and not for receptors in mammals and humans. In addition to the active ingredient, a celeprine contains very small amounts of two preservatives, 1,2-benzysulfiazole and bronopol. It is important to know that although some people are sensitive to preservatives, allergic reactions have not been reported in people exposed to a celeprine. A celeprine also contains other ingredients. The full ingredient list is withheld from the public as confidential business information. However, the Environmental Public Agency, EPA, reviewed the whole ingredient list and concluded it is of low concern for human health. Additionally, EPA reviewed a celeprine and placed this pesticide in the reduced risk category. That means the use of this pesticide is the least toxic approach because it poses less risk to human health and the environment than other pesticides used for the same purpose. Overall, a celeprine has a good safety record. The next slide, please. No studies on the effects of human exposures to a celeprine have been conducted. However, there is a published account from 2016 of a 26-year-old female from India who intentionally drank an entire bottle of a different product, DuPont Coragen, with the same active ingredient. She developed a slower heartbeat and a heart block, which were both treated. She experienced no other health effects. No other studies examining the effects of a celeprine or the active ingredient in humans were located. EPA conducted a human health risk assessment of the active ingredient. Little to no toxicity was found. A celeprine is not expected to harm pets, fish, and birds. It is also not expected to harm children. The next slide. Concerning pesticide illness cases, no cases of illness from a celeprine have been reported to Washington State from 2010 to the current day. The next slide. We do not expect illness in the general population following spraying with a celeprine. However, because we cannot rule out that there could be symptoms related to allergy, we encourage people to avoid exposure to spray droplets. Follow this guidance to minimize your exposure. Stay out of the treatment area until the treatment has dried. Keep your pets out of the treatment area until it has dried. If you accidentally touch the pesticide, wash the affected skin with soap and water. If your clothes accidentally come into contact with the pesticide, remove the clothing and wash before wearing again. Eating garden produce grown in soil treated with a celeprine is not expected to cause health effects. However, if you want to avoid exposure, take steps to avoid surface water runoff from areas treated with a celeprine into home gardens. The next slide. Here are some resources. To report a suspected illness, call the 1-877 number listed here, or the pesticide program also listed here. You can call the same number for any further question related to a celeprine. You can also call Washington Poison Center for free, immediate expert advice and assistance. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat box. We'll also have time at the end to answer questions as well. So now that we kind of understand the human aspect, health-related things, according to Celeprint, let's learn how to sign up for treatments. This is kind of the first step in getting there. So there's a couple different ways that you can sign up for treatments. You can use a mobile device to give treatment consent. You can drop a consent form in a supplied business reply mail letter, or you can swing by your city hall. In February, we sent a couple things to your mailbox. We sent an envelope with a Japanese beetles treatment letter, a fact sheet, and a consent form. Now, if you own multiple treatments, you may have got multiple letters. And I will go ahead and show you how to use these forms to sign up for the different treatments. If you want to sign up for treatments online, you're going to need access to a mobile device and this treatment cover letter shown here. On the treatment cover letter, it has a unique pin in the top corner. In that top right corner, that unique pin is typically 5 numbers. Take your mobile device and go to the web page agr.wa.gov/Beetles. When you're on that web page, you will see a giant box or banner at the top that says Give Treatment Consent. You'll want to click on the Give Treatment Consent button, and it will take you to the online consent or treatment and access agreement. There'll be some text at the top explaining to you what it is, and there will be a box at the bottom for you to enter that unique PIN. Remember, your unique PIN is coming from the letter. It's the 5 digits at the top. You'll want to put this into the mobile consent form, click submit. It'll then open the form for you to fill out your information, and then you can submit that and we will have it. When you fill out your mobile consent form, you want to put in the appropriate contact information because this is what we will use to notify you of your treatment. If you happen to have lost your letter, you aren't aware of your PIN, it's pretty easy to get by contacting us. You can send us an email to pestprogram@agr.wa.gov, or you can call our hotline. Give us your information and we will work to get that PIN to you. If you don't want to use a mobile device or have limited access to the internet, we also sent you a business reply envelope in your letter stack. So out of these 3 pages that you got, you will only need to send us back the consent form. Please fill out the consent form, make it legible because we will use this information to notify you of your treatment, and then put it in the business reply envelope and drop it in the mailbox. You can also take this consent form to your local city hall and drop it off. Your city hall actually has extra copies in case you have lost it and would like another. So Wapato, Grandview, Mabton, Sunnyside, and Pasco City Halls are all accepting your treatment consent forms. If you want to print off a consent form at home, go online to our website, click on the Japanese beetle treatment section, and you can download it there to print it off, or you can email us and we'll send you a copy. Feel free to call our hotline and we can figure out how to get you one as well. If you rent property, please consult with your landlord, but you are available and welcome to sign up for treatments as well. A little bit more on the treatments is that treatments will happen this spring. They're going to start in April and run into May and June. They will happen anywhere from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We will notify you 2 business days in advance based on what preference you told us you would like to be notified when you signed up. You don't need to be home for the treatment, but we do need you to open your gates so we can have access to your front yard and your backyard because we want to treat all grassy areas. We ask that you remove items from lawns so that we don't trip over them and we can have maximum treatment. If you have any animals, we ask that you put them away for our workers' safety. And if you can mow before treatments, that's also appreciated. The treatments, once they are dry, you are able to access your property again and walk on your lawn. We just ask that you wait for the treatment to be dry. Treatments will take place depending the amount of time, depending on the size of your property. So a smaller property could take 10 minutes and a larger property could take 30 minutes. But once the acelepryn, the treatment has dried, you can enter your property and walk on it again. You'll know that we have finished your treatment because we will leave a door knocker saying thank you. We've finished your treatment and provide you some follow-up information. We will leave a lawn marker in your yard. If by chance we go to treat your property and your gate's locked, or we can't for some other type of reason, we'll leave a door knocker saying sorry that we've missed you, and then we will work to automatically reschedule you and notify you 2 business days prior for your next treatment. Another thing to note about treatments is that we need you to sign up, but also to encourage your neighbors to sign up as well. So let's say you sign up, your neighbor signs up, but one of your neighbors fails to do so. This could affect you because their property is going to grow extra beetles who will then end up at your neighbors and back at your house, right? So we really would like you to sign up for treatments and then to be an advocate and help share with your neighbors why they should sign up for Japanese beetle treatments so you can work to protect your whole community and our community of agriculture in our state. So you learned that you need to sign up for treatments and give us your consent to treat your property. You learned how you can support our trapping efforts as well as collect and remove adult beetles yourself. But we haven't talked yet about not spreading beetles and the quarantine. So let's get into this messaging that you'll see. Throughout the year, especially in the summer, you'll hear us saying keep plants, soil, and yard waste in the quarantine area. Let's learn why. The quarantine area is a set of boundaries that we have drawn based on where our traps have caught Japanese beetles. Inside these yellow boxes on these maps are areas where Japanese beetles have been trapped. The area outside of the yellow boundary does not have Japanese beetle. We want to work to keep all the Japanese beetle inside those yellow boundaries and prevent them from spreading outside. That is what the quarantine boundary is. The area inside it is referred to being under quarantine. The map on your right is going to be the Japanese beetle quarantine in the areas of Yakima and Benton County. The map on your left is currently our proposed quarantine for Pasco. We'll talk about these each individually. But first, let's learn how we can spread beetles. Let's think about the summer when we have adult beetles out from May to October. We could be out mowing our lawn that could have Japanese beetles in it, trimming our tree bushes, cutting our flowers, moving them. We move Japanese beetle. The same thing if we dig up some soil that has some eggs in it, we could move Japanese beetle. And if we flip over to the times of the year, say the late fall, the winter, the early spring, where the adults aren't out yet, we have to think about what's under our feet. And if I have soil with Japanese beetle in it and I move it, I could be spreading Japanese beetle to new areas. This is going to be the same with potted plants. If I buy a potted plant, if I have a potted plant out on my doorstep and then I move and take that with me, I could be spreading Japanese beetle. This is going to be the same if I purchase a plant inside the quarantine area during the summer and I move it outside when the adult beetles are active, I could be spreading Japanese beetle. So if we're in this area in Yakima or Benton County, we need to be aware of how we can work together to not spread beetle, to share with our neighbors and keep them in this area so that we can work to treat and trap and work to remove them. To help you guys out, we've actually created a yard debris drop-off. That way, as you're doing your summer prunings and clippings, you can take this and your grass, dispose of it. We can treat it and make it clear from beetles. So this is at 875 Bridgeview Road in Grandview. It's free to take your yard waste here. It is opening April 1st. It's typically open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is open sometimes on Saturdays, so just check our website for details or contact us and ask. We actually hope to open more yard debris drop-off soon, so again, check our website and stay tuned. Now, in the Pasco area, we are still working actively to figure out how to help residents handle their yard waste, and we don't have a drop-off set up yet. So we are just currently asking people to be aware of how to not spread beetles and keep them contained until we can move forward to give them a better answer on what they can do with their yard waste rather than just keeping it on site. But we still want everybody to be aware that treatments are happening and that we want to not spread them. So we have learned how to sign up for treatments and why we should, and share with our neighbors how we can trap for beetles and remove them and support our trapping process. And then we also started to learn about quarantine. Now, there is a little bit more about quarantine since this is a rule. It's affecting how people live and work in the area. So I'm going to turn it over to Jill to share a little bit more about what we're doing with environmental justice.
Yes. Hi, good evening again, everyone. I'm Jill. I'm the Environmental Justice Coordinator here at Department of Ag. And environmental justice is a fairly new body of work at the state agency level that was spurred with the passage of the HEAL Act, or the Healthy Environment for All Act, back in 2021. And the intent of this law, and there are 7 agencies total that are working to implement this new law, and the goal is to reduce environmental and health disparities in our state and to improve the health of Washington residents. And one of the ways we do this is through assessing the kinds of impacts that our agency's actions have on communities across our state. And so with that said, we would love to know how the expansion of the Japanese beetle quarantine that Cassie has provided a great amount of detail on. We're interested in understanding how that impacts you, your community, or your business. We would love to hear if there's potential concerns on the top of your mind that we should, as a department, be considering when expanding this quarantine. And also if there's things you have in mind on ways that we can lessen these concerns when expanding the quarantine. We have some time now, we can dialogue. I also have the environmental justice email up on the slide as well. I welcome you to, if you need some time to kind of think and digest what you learned today from our speakers and get back to me, that's definitely fine. But if anyone on the call right now can think of anything you'd like to share, we are definitely open to hearing that. So anything on the top of your mind on how this impacts you?
Go ahead and drop those in the chat box. Awesome. So while we give people a minute to go ahead and get those chats in the box, the last thing that I want to kind of mention is we have been trapping in the areas, we have been treating, and we have been working in quarantine, not just for 1 year, right? But we've been doing this for multiple years, and it won't be the last year that we're going to be trapping, or potentially the last year we're asking you for treatments. This is going to be an ongoing process that's going to require us to work together year after year. So you will need to sign up for treatments every year, support our trapping efforts, and work to pick off beetles again, and then continue to stay up to date on the quarantine boundaries, see what's evolved in the rule and what's changing, and work with Jill to get your feedback inputted. So feel free to continue to put stuff in the chat box. The last thing that I kind of want to mention is there is a QR code here that you can also scan to give us feedback. If you have any questions at all, please reach out and email us at pestprogram@agr.wa.gov or call our hotline at 1-800-443-6684. You can scan this QR code with your phone. It'll take you to a link where you can leave anonymous feedback, or you can leave your contact info to get back to us. I will also go ahead and put the email for environmental justice in the chat box for you. But any questions that you have, feel free to put them in the box now.
Well, I'll just say again, definitely a lot of information, but definitely take some time, maybe talk with your family, talk with neighbors, and really think about how this does impact you. We would love to hear, because the goal is to reduce impacts on communities. And yeah, happy to answer any questions, and feel free to reach out. That would be great.
Perfect. We are offering this webinar tomorrow at the same time in Spanish for any monolingual speakers out there, or anybody who wants to chat in. We are also going to be offering an in-person open house March 28th in Pasco. If you live in the Grandview, Mabton, Sunnyside, or Wapato areas, please check our website, join our Facebook group. We've been posting events in there where you can stop by and talk to us and see us at a table. But other than that, thank you for your time. Have a nice evening, and the emails will be posted in the chat box for you.
Thanks, Cassie.